Hello and welcome to this lecture. Today we are going to discuss the first section of the treatment, and which is bronchodilators. And we mentioned that it is used for quick relief medication, and it is used for intermittent treatment of uh, asthma, having patient having irregular asthmatic attacks, and not in frequency, not regular. So we classified them into beta 2 adrenoreceptor agonist, antimuscarinics, and xanthine preparations. When we talk about sympathomimetic agents, and we're talking about beta adrenoreceptor agonist, what their main function is that they are responsible for direct beta 2 stimulation, and they increase the cyclic AMP. And if you remember, we discussed the pharmacological activities of cyclic AMP, that cyclic AMP increase result in bronchodilation. And we already discussed the same thing in beta receptor stimulations or sympathomimetic drugs in our previous lectures. So if you revise that topic, you understand that the same mechanism we are going to discuss, that beta 2 stimulation directly responsible to stimulate adenylyl cyclase, and which is an enzyme, and that is adenylyl cyclase is responsible for increasing cyclic AMP, which produce bronchodilation. Then it inhibits mediated release from the mast cells, and we already discussed in the pathogenesis that when IgE bind with the mast cells, it release histamine and other mediators. So what actually these drugs are doing, they are inhibiting these mediators to decrease the airway hyperresponsiveness. Then the other thing, if you see in the pathogenesis, is the production of mucus, and these drugs are increasing the mucus clearance by increasing the ciliary activity. And this is the picture of the epithelial cells. These are the basement membrane, basal cells, and then these are cilia, are hair-like projections, and they are responsible to clear the mucus blanket. You can see the mucus. So this is the structure of the epithelial cells, where we have the cilia, and cilia have an important role in clearance of the mucus. So what these drugs are doing, they increasing the mucus clearance by increasing the ciliary activity that further eliminate the mucus and clear the airways. Classification of beta agonist, it is classified into non-selective beta agonist such as epinephrine, isoprenaline. It is further classified into selective beta 2 agonist, which is more preferable, because non-selective can act on beta 1 and beta 2 both, whereas beta 2 are only selective to beta 2 receptors. And the drugs contains salbutamol, terbutaline, salmeterol, formoterol. For non-selective beta agonist, the drug is epinephrine, which is potent bronchodilators, having rapid action within 15 minutes, but their duration of action is only 60 to 90 minutes. So it means this drug is the drug of choice for hypersensitivity reactions, for anaphylactic shocks. It means for sudden allergic reaction where you need medical treatment in emergency. And they are responsible in the same way that we discussed before, the mechanism of action, that beta agonist increases cyclic AMP with the help of adenylyl cyclase, and as a result bronchodilation occur. And they are available in the form of nebulizers, inhalants in the market. What are the disadvantages? They are not effective orally, so you cannot take them by mouth. Then it can lead to hyperglycemia. Then the drug having CVS effects, cardiovascular effects such as tachycardias, arrhythmias, hypertension, skeletal muscle tremors, and not suitable for asthmatic patients with hypertension or heart failure. So if a person having already serious effects, it is contraindicated in them. As mentioned below that it is not indicated for CVS patients and diabetic patient because of the hyperglycemia that it causes. Then the other drug is isoproterenol, which is non-selective beta 1 and beta 2 bronchodilators. The dose that has been given is 80 to 120 microgram. That causes maximal bronchodilation within 5 minutes. So it is also fast acting, and their duration of action is 60 to 90 minutes. But this is also not suitable for patient having cardiac arrhythmias. Then we have selective beta 2 agonist, which is most recommended drugs that have been given and the drug of choice. And they are used for acute attack of asthma. They are given in the form of inhalants, such as meter dose inhalers and nebulizers. They can be given as short acting. It can be given as orally or parenterally. The drugs for short acting are salbutamol, terbutaline. For long acting drugs, we have salmeterol and formoterol. And when we talk about these drugs, they can be given inhalants, can be given orally, can be given intravenous. Terbutaline also can be given inhalants orally or subcutaneous. They also have rapid onset of action 15 to 30 minutes, but their duration of action is 4 to 6 hours, which is better than if we take a look of the drugs like we discussed before. In case of epinephrine, where the duration of action is only 60 to 90 minutes. So when we compare the drugs from epinephrine to short-acting salbutamol and terbutaline, they having duration of action is more than epinephrine, which is 4 to 6 hours. It is used for symptomatic treatments. For acute episodic attack of asthma, as I already discussed, it is used for intermittent purposes. If a patient having frequency of asthma after every 4 hours or 6 hours, then we will not recommend these drugs. Long active beta 2 agonists are salmeterol, formoterol, having long acting action 12 hours. They are highly lipid soluble and they are given by inhalation. They are not used to relieve acute episodic of asthma, and they also used for nocturnal asthma. It means for long acting reliever. So when we compare these drugs, salmeterol and formoterol, compared with the short acting beta 2 agonist, the main difference between both of them is that this the salmeterol and formoterol is for long acute long episode of asthmas, and especially for nocturnal asthmas, whereas the short acting beta 2 agonists are only for short term 4 to 6 hours. So you must need to know that patient having asthma after how much time, is it regular, is it frequency, it is either in the form of frequency or it is infrequent. So you need to calculate them before giving them the drugs. And these drugs, long acting asthma can be given with combination with inhaled corticosteroids for controlling to control the asthma or to decrease the severity of the attack. Then we have ultra long acting beta agonists, which are indacaterol, olodaterol, and vilanterol, which are long acting bronchodilators and need to take once in a day because they are long acting. So we have to understand the patient compliance is very important. And V for vilanterol, O for olodaterol, and I stand for identerol. So you can memorize by making some abbreviations. Currently FDA approved only for the treatment of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Other long-acting agents, especially beta agonists, which is approved in Europe, include bambuterol, but they are not approved yet in the United States. What are the advantages of beta 2 agonist? They having minimum CVS side effects. So if a person having cardiovascular effects such as arrhythmias, then you give this drug as compared to the drugs that we discussed before. Disadvantages: it can cause skeletal muscle tremors, nervousness. Tolerance will be developed with the drug, so you need to increase the dose uh, with if the acute asthma uh, converted to chronic. Maybe we need to give them in combination with corticosteroids because of the tolerance. Then tachycardia could be occur if we give an overdose because of the beta 1 stimulation. As we know them that the beta agonists, they are dose dependent. So increase of a dose at certain level will responsible for stimulation of beta 1 receptors. The toxicity associated with them are it can worse hypoxemia and cardiac arrhythmias, severe asthma with irregularities in cardiac rhythm, improvement in gas exchange affected by bronchodilator treatments and oxygen administration. So if a person having the side effects or toxicity of hypoxemia, we need to give them oxygen to reduce the toxic effect of these treatments. Long acting beta agonist can be given. Long acting beta agonist can cause tachyphylaxis. What is tachyphylaxis? It is known as a sudden decrease in response of the drug when administered. And then the question is that how can you compare tolerance with tachyphylaxis? Because in tolerance also there is a decrease of response with time, and then we need to increase the dose of the drug to the patient. In tachyphylaxis also the same thing, but the main difference is that in tachyphylaxis there is a sudden decrease of the effect, whereas is tolerance, intolerance, it occurs with time. It is a progressive reduce in response of the drug. Then we have methylxanthines as bronchodilators such as theophylline and aminophylline, and they how they work, they work by inhibition of phosphodiesterase, which is an enzyme, and increasing the cyclic AMP, same like before. In we discussed before that increase of the cyclic AMP is responsible for bronchodilation effect. They are also responsible for bronchodilation by increasing cyclic AMP, but how? By inhibition of phosphodiesterase. And they are adenosine receptor antagonist. They increase the diaphragmatic contraction and stabilize the mast cells. And if you remember the previous picture, how beta agonist with the increase of the adenylyl cyclase increasing cyclic AMP and causes bronchodilation. And when we see the same mechanism and we see this now theophylline, by inhibition of phosphodiesterase, they increase cyclic AMP and then increase the bronchodilation effect. So again, the two drugs previously beta agonists, they are also responsible for increasing cyclic AMP and causes bronchodilation. In theophylline, they are inhibiting phosphodiesterase, uh, and by that they increasing the cyclic AMP, which is also known as the second messenger cyclic adenosine monophosphate, and they are responsible for bronchodilation effect. So that's explained that mechanism, that they are phosphodiesterase inhibitor and responsible for increasing cyclic AMP. What are the pharmacological effects? They causes bronchial muscle relaxation, increase the contraction of diaphragm, and improve ventilation. Cardiovascular effects are increase of the heart rate, increased force of contraction. In GIT, it can cause an increase of gastric acid secretions. In kidney, it can increase the renal blood flow, but having weak diuretic action. We know them, they are CNS stimulants, and they have a stimulant effect on the respiratory center, decrease the fatigueness and elevate the mood, but the overdose can lead to tremor, nervousness, insomnia, and convulsions. And many people actually, the theophylline is a drug that people misuse or abuse them, because it is also helps to wake for the long term. So students or medical students, sometimes they misuse them and to wake for long hours. Clinical uses: it relieve airflow obstruction in acute asthma, reduce the severity of the symptom in patient with chronic asthma. Second drug of choice or second line of drug in asthma. So it means they are not first drug of choice, but they are the second drug of choice. For status asthmatics, aminophylline is given as slow infusion. What is status asthmatic? It is known as acute severe asthma, and it could be occur because sometime allergen with the food. So in that cases, we give aminophylline as slow infusion. What are the side effects? Having low therapeutic index, so we need to understand the dose, safety monitoring of the theophylline in the blood. It has some cardiovascular effects such as hypotension or arrhythmias. The GIT effect leads to nausea and vomiting, but the main effect that these drugs are having are CNS effects such as tremor, insomnia, nervousness, and convulsions. And actually, this insomnia, uh, people misuse them, and students they use this drug as abuse and to study for long hours. So thank you so much for today's lectures. Hope to see you again.